Hello and welcome to social media advertising. Today we're going to be looking at a couple of things when it comes to a general social media advertising strategy. I look at this more as a good introduction to the world of social media advertising. What this is not is step by step process setting up a social media advertising campaign on Meta or on TikTok or any other social platform. This is more about the nuts and bolts and the concepts of advertising on a social media platform. And as I have liked to do in the past, I like to take a look back because it's hard to really talk about the world of online advertising without first um, considering what it was before. So, advertising, it goes back before this photo. I just like to use this image as an example. But advertising goes back hundreds of years. But when you think about modern advertising, pretty much since print media was a common everyday thing, I like to look at magazine ads. And in this example, this is from the 80s. This used an actress, and you see a headline at the top and a description, and then a product, a pretty hideous bottle of shampoo at the bottom. It loosely resembles a regular magazine article. It takes a second, but you do eventually figure out it's an ad. And if you were to look at the rest of the magazine, based on the layout of the text and the page itself, it does. You could be fooled into thinking it's part of an article. Now, I don't know if I would call this native advertising, but the idea is that this is somewhat resembles the way that social media ads work, in that they come in, they're in your feed for whatever platform you're using. They are just another old post, but you can tell pretty quickly that it's not an organic post. You can tell pretty fast that it's paid. And when you do this, it can take a couple of seconds. You might actually engage, consume the actual ad before, because you might think it's an organic post. And then you see what's going on and you move on. And the way that these ads are created is very Mad Men esque. And you see, I just grabbed this image as an example from the show Mad Men, but they would go through all of these meetings and these planning discussions, both internally and with the client. And it would just take months and months, sometimes years, to fully execute an advertising campaign, because those images of those burgers, the burger and the fries in the background, right? They have to go through the process of the concept. They have to design it. They have to come up with the idea. They need to take the picture, the photo. They need to, back then they had to like expose the film. Then they had to lay it out by hand. No computers. Then they had to get approval. Then that so far we've gotten to the board part that you see behind John Hamm. Then they get sign off, and when it's approved, then they need to get them to the magazine or the newspaper, wherever they are advertising it, like weeks in advance. So something that may have started as an initial conversation in January probably finally hits a magazine to look like this by like June. It's a pretty lengthy process. And the payoff is, well, it's hard to tell. You couldn't really attribute what it was from. The Dimension shampoo here, how would you know if you were Dimension shampoo and you were actually getting sales because people saw an ad? You really couldn't. So the idea of attribution with advertising back in the day was extremely difficult. You just kind of attributed the natural ebbs and flows of your revenue to advertising or to the lack of advertising. So that's really kind of where we came from. And today it's so different. I have this little this little content image in the background. You don't even have to do all of this these days. This is just a fun stock image. Today you can get an ad up online in showing to people within minutes. Sometimes it takes a couple hours for it to go through the automated review process of the platform, but when I say minutes, I mean minutes. This is a largely undesigned presentation, just so you know, but I just want to start by, what does minutes mean? And if you've ever boosted a post on social media, this is where those come in. There are two types of ads that we'll talk about. Those are campaigns and boosts. Boosts are when you take a single post and you promote it. You put money behind it and you promote it to an audience. That is what takes minutes when it comes to advertising. Every platform offers it right on the post because, platforms want you to spend money. Now, with campaigns, though, those take a little bit longer. These are more for the long-term social media advertising campaigns, and I think take a little bit of time to build out. When we think about boosted posts, the big advantage is that it's fast. Number one, that's the reason that people boost it. I mean, it's nice that you can use an existing post so you don't have to create something from scratch, but it's super quick. Conversely, campaigns take a little bit more time, but the big advantage here is that you have more control over all of the steps. And at least in my own experience, you usually get a little bit better results because there's more of a planning process. You set a goal, you can define your audience in both cases, but you spend more time on the audience development, and then you create different variations of the ad as well. With a boosted post, you take something that already exists, just click, boom, posted, done. But with an ad, you can tailor each individual type. You can tailor a story, you can tailor an in-feed, a mobile feed, a desktop feed, something that might appear on the marketplace for Facebook, or something that might appear in the grid view on Instagram, for example. There's a lot of different variations. But honestly, this is really where the two formats, where the big differences end. Because from here on out, we'll look at just the basics of how advertising works. I like to start with the two forms here because this is the first question I get asked about, how social media advertising works. But from there, all of the basics work the same. And that's where I'll stop the video for now. And next time we will start with targeting. The audience development is a really key part. And then we'll dig more into some of the other details. For questions, please feel free to reach out, but I will be sure to put a link to the next video here after I get this published.